the resilience of the Australian economy. Now, that didn't happen by accident.
Everybody expects Australia's economy to thrive.
We've got a business that's really well placed to capitalise on that.
Australia is, in theory, one of the richest countries in the world.
A country with countless resources.
Coal is most abundant in New South Wales.
Australia has the largest uranium resources in the world.
Thousands of people trying to move and live here.
Has ranked Australia second in quality of life.
And on board are 200 British immigrants.
May shows that we're the #1 nation.
An economy that is one of the best in the world.
And the fact that we've outperformed the rest of the world.
GDP growth rate came above the consensus estimate.
This is not one of those examples.
Australia's economy has slipped into a per capita recession, registering 2 negative quarters of per capita GDP growth.
Sluggish household spending and falling property investments.
Economy is on life support.
We've been in a per capita recession.
Recession?
Recession. Recession.
Recession.
On the 3rd June 2026, one of the biggest news of Australia's economy was being uncovered.
The economy is likely in a far worse position than these figures are suggesting.
And it all centered around one reason.
Australia needs to improve its poor productivity performance.
Was driven by public sector expenditure.
Some might think this issue is going to cause Australia's biggest economic downfall. And they're not totally wrong. Okay, so in 1983, in a lab in Sydney, a team at the University of New South Wales invented a new kind of solar cell. It was called PERC, or PERC, and it worked so well that today it is inside more than 85% of every new solar panel made anywhere on Earth. An Australian invention on roofs in Germany and Texas and India and even China. So, how many of those panels are made in Australia? Basically, none. China makes 97% of the world's solar wafers, 90% of the polysilicon, over 80% of the finished panels. Australia invented the thing. China built it, sold it, and kept the money. And that is not a one-off. That is the same story over and over. Alright, let's talk about cars. China now exports more cars than any other country on Earth. It passed Germany, it passed Japan. And in 2023, it shipped just under 5 million vehicles overseas. By 2025, it was about 7 million. In June this year, it ships more than 1 million cars in a single month for the first time ever. And more than half of them were electric. 56% of every fully electric car sold anywhere in the world this year came out of China. Australia exports 0 cars, not a small number. Literally 0, because in 2017, the last car came off the last production line in the country and the industry shut. Now, let's talk about batteries. Okay, more than 80% of every battery cell made on the planet is Chinese. For the big grid storage batteries, it's about 90%. China also makes around 85% of the cathode material and over 90% of the anode material, which are the 2 things a cell is actually built out of. Now, Australia makes almost none of that. What Australia does is dig up the lithium, and it's very good at it. It digs up more lithium than any other country in the world. Then it puts the rock on a ship. Rare earths. These are the metals inside every electric motor and every wind turbine and a lot of military hardware. China refines about 90% of the world's supply and makes 93% of the magnets they go into. Australia has some of the best rare earth deposits on Earth and refines a tiny fraction of them. And look at the number that gives the whole thing away. Because China only mines about 70% of those rare earths, it refines 90. It makes 93% of the magnets. So the digging is deliberately the smallest number of the 3. Because anyone can dig. There's rock everywhere. But refining is a part nobody can go around. So did Australia try? Yeah, once, properly. There's a refinery at Kwinana, just south of Perth, built to take Australian rock and turn it into battery-grade lithium hydroxide. Right next to the mine that feeds it, 51% owned by a Chinese company, 49% by an Australian one. It started up 4 years ago and it never once got close to the amount it was built to produce. Last financial year, it lost $955 million. and in January this year, the owners agreed to shut it down. The Australian side wrote $605 million off the books. So that's the scoreboard. Solar, China. Batteries, China. Cars, China. Rare earths, China. Refining, China. And none of that was luck. Every one of those numbers is a decision somebody made in Beijing 30 years ago and then kept paying for a while it lost money. Year after year, until it didn't. China spent more than $50 billion building solar factories, 10 times what Europe spent. And it created over 300,000 manufacturing jobs doing it. That is what it looks like when a country decides what it wants to be. So what was Australia doing for those 30 years? Getting rich, genuinely. I mean, the mining boom paid for everything, and it worked. And that's the trap. Because a boom doesn't feel like a warning. It feels like being right. Manufacturing quietly fell to 5.1% of the economy, which is the smallest share of any country in the OECD. Any of them. And here's the number that sums it up. Australia is the 12th biggest economy in the world. But there's an index that measures how complicated the stuff a country makes actually is, how many things it can build that nobody else can. And on that one, Australia ranks 102nd. 102nd. Behind countries with a fraction of the money and none of the minerals. And you can see what that caused in real time. In that March quarter this year, exports dropped 1.1%. Coal alone fell 6.8%. Trade pulled 0.8 of a percentage point straight out of the growth figure. And the economy grew 0.3%. Why? I mean, a cyclone shut a few ports for a couple of weeks. That's it. Bad weather in one state was enough to move the national accounts of an entire developed country. That does not happen to a country that makes things. It happens to a country that sells rock. And investment did go up last quarter, 6%. The biggest jump in machinery and equipment in 30 years, which sounds like the good news finally arriving, except it was data centers and almost all of the equipment was imported. So the money got spent in Australia and the thing got built somewhere else. Meanwhile, productivity is sitting below where it was in 2019. Output per person has gone backwards in 10 of the last 15 quarters. And measured by living standards, this is the slowest decade the country has had since the First World War. So think about what an electric car actually is. It's lithium and iron and copper and rare earths, which are the exact things this continent has more of than almost anywhere on Earth. And China doesn't have most of them. It bought them, a lot of them from Australia. Then it turned them into the single most valuable export on the planet and sold them back. Australia had the same 40 years, a better starting position even in the minerals. But the only thing it invented was the solar cell.